I love hardcore World of Warcraft. I've been playing World of Warcraft for a little under a year now, about 9 months. I started off with retail and now I've ventured into hardcore classic World of Warcraft. Today I just want to go over a few reasons that for new players and current players alike, why I think getting into hardcore World of Warcraft could be for you. And I've broken it down into hopefully 5 decent-ish categories that we can go over and look at and really discuss why I think it's been so good for me personally. And I think it could be good for people who look at World of Warcraft currently and think there's no way in hell I can get into it. Hardcore might just be the right place for you. I want to start out with the number one absolute best thing I've noticed about hardcore World of Warcraft. I've played retail for a while now, good 9 months. I've played a bit of classic very occasionally, and now hardcore. And the absolute number one thing that hardcore is incredible for me is community. The hardcore community is immense, and granted you get toxic sides of every community wherever you go, whatever you do. And I know that the retail lot are probably going to be annoyed at me for this video, but I'm sorry, the hardcore community is elite in comparison. It is so good. I cannot remember the last time, and I'm getting towards 30, I played a game where I bumped into random people who were willing and in fact wanted to converse about the game we were playing. Not long ago, I was leveling as a warrior and I bumped into a random player who was fishing, and we had a full conversation about how I could be a better player. And in fact, we then started leveling together. And, you know, every week or so, I'd bump into him literally in the game. We'd be like, oh, what's up? You're still alive. You're still alive. And then when we each die, it's like, oh, that's awful. And we go again. And so in a weird way, I haven't played a game for a long time that has so many people who want to interact with people, who want to be engaged, or who are excited about the game they're playing. And for me, that's really refreshing. I feel like lots of the language recently, and again, I'm new to the world, and so World of Warcraft, new to the World of Warcraft. I don't know if this has been happening for a long time, but it feels like already, as a newer player, I can see the attitude towards retail and classic is completely different. I know that they both have negatives, and I know that people like one and dislike the other. But a lot of the language around retail is kind of negative and therefore kind of feels a bit draining. It feels a bit like a negative space to go into. I queue for an M+ or something like that, and I'm expecting it to be a bad experience. But when I log into hardcore, I expect hardcore World of Warcraft to be a good experience. And I think that's down to the community more than anything. You don't expect to go in there and have everyone, you know, basically shit talk you or whatever like that. You expect to go in and it just be good. And that's what I love so much. And the community has been amazing. I mean, I've been questing with people for hours and hours and hours now. Veterans looking after me, making sure I'm not doing anything stupid, being told loads of information. And I think that's awesome. I absolutely love that side of it. The community is immense, and I'm sure I'll keep coming into it. The next one I want to talk about is, as newer players and maybe older players, I'm sure there's lots of you 30, 40, 50-year-olds who are absolutely smoking M+. The pacing is awesome. And I know that if you've come from retail, playing hardcore will feel slow and it will feel boring to begin with, but give it time. And I know that sounds weird because I'm saying it's slow and boring, but give it time, it's worth it. The pacing is slow, but that's great. There is less buttons to press, and people would say that it's easy, it's an easy game. Fine. If it's easy, that's fine with me because it's fun. You will learn what to press and how to press it far better, in my personal opinion, playing hardcore to begin with as a newer player, or classic, not just hardcore, I should preface that. And it will teach your skills to learn to read and to understand World of Warcraft a bit more as a game. And the pacing really is beneficial for that. You will have times where you go into a fight, you have an awesome fight, big battle, just survive, and then you have to walk for 5-10 minutes, or you have to fly somewhere for 3-4 minutes. And it gives you an opportunity to think about each instance. How should I have done this better? Where should I have gone? What item should I have used? And I'm really lucky that I do lots of it on stream, so I have people telling me what I've done wrong, and that's been really helpful. But even then, I think often when I have a bit of combat, I go like, okay, I probably should have used, I'm currently playing a rogue, gouge in this instance. I probably should have used evasion, and so on and so forth. And you learn a lot more about the game that way, I think, and that pacing is helpful. It's also helpful because, quite frankly, playing M+ for 2 or 3 hours is exhausting. I could play hardcore or classic for way longer. Not that you necessarily want to play for way longer, and we've all got stuff to do, of course, but it's more relaxing. It's more calming, and I'm about to go on something which is going to contradict that directly, obviously, but it feels great. The pacing feels good, and I know that it feels like walk, 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 but in lots of ways the pacing feels like you build to a crescendo every time. So what we're doing is in hardcore it feels like you do 5 levels, okay, now there's a big moment. Okay, this is a bigger boss, this is a harder quest. Okay, I've done it. Good, give me another 2-3 levels, I can level, I can take it slow again. Again, big boss, big quest. Okay, I'm at level 8, level 9. Can I do this one? You do it again, and so on and so forth. And it repeats this pattern where it really feels like you're building your character along the way. It feels like the really slow, boring stuff is worthwhile so that when you get to the harder one, you're ready. I think retail is funny because you want to get powerful. Retail, you're like, I want to be powerful now. Hardcore and classic. Classic takes away from you. Hardcore takes that away from you even more because I'm going to go on to my next point. You're scared of things. You have fear. You've put time into your character. You don't want to die. You want to make the right decision. If that enemy is 2 or 3 levels higher than you, you're seriously considering, is this a sensible idea? What strategy do I need to enter into? And that just adds to the fun of the game. And so I'll go into my next point, the fear. And the fear leads into the pacing, of course. The more scared you are, the slower that you take things, fine. But the fear of the game is something, and it might just be me, I like a game to have a little bit more weight to it, a little bit more grit to it, a little bit more intensity to it. And whereas retail is amazing, I love retail, I do, I'm not just bashing it here, but it feels a bit more cartoony, it's a bit more fun, it's a bit more arcadey. I'm here doing massive damage, I'm attacking multiple things, I'm pulling 20 things towards me, I'm dumping all my damage, millions on the damage meters, and yet there is no intensity, there is no fear about what if, other than, you know, Tiny Tim 10,000 miles away calling you dog and slandering you in the chat. That's the only fear you've got, really. Whereas in hardcore, every fight you go into, every situation you go into, you look around, okay, am I going to pull into something else? How should I strategize to this? How should I go into this? Am I ready for this? Do I need to invite other people? And that fear for me goes back into the community side of things, is as a newer player, I rely on better players. I do, it's the truth. Like, I wish I could be really good and I'm trying to get better. But the fear in the game means that we have better community. The connection you have to a character and the want to keep it alive you have means the community is better because people rely on each other. Because we're concerned about this fight we're going into or a particular boss that we've got to go into, and we just did, I can't remember what it is, the crypt in that farm area. You guys will probably know with the crazy respawn rates. And we had to invite a bunch of people in, and better people, and we went through it together. And because we were all freaking out about that one, we got a team together, a mixture of people I knew, a mixture of people I didn't know, and that's awesome. The fear adds to the game. The hardcore fear makes you go like, okay, I've got to do this right. I've got one chance. And I like that. I also just like how I've been playing Undead, so I'm sure it's, you know, amplified. But I like how the areas feel intense. Moving through, the atmosphere feels good. It feels a bit darker, feels a bit gloomier. And you notice things. You really notice things. And that's what I found really nice about playing hardcore and classic in general, is like, there's areas I never would have noticed in retail. You fly over, you land, you jump up, you fly, you land, you fly, you land. And you miss stuff. Like, I can't remember what area again I was in, but like, there's some spooky areas. There's like some dark backstories that must be to do with these areas. The areas feel more alive because you've got to get to them. You experience the music in the area, the building music, it's ramping. Okay, there's enemies here, there's more and more enemies. Oh, and there's some tragedy that's going over here. And it's awesome. I love the feeling of fear and intensity that it puts onto you. For that brief interruption, I'll come on to my next section, which is about the adventure. And I think hardcore does adventuring and being an adventurer so well in comparison to retail. And I know it's just, again, my opinion, but I feel like in retail, and I think lots of you will agree, you feel like the absolute god, pharaoh, king, admiral, overlord, doomslayer of the world. You're like absolutely the guy or the gal. You are the one they go to when they want you to go and defeat a god and his 1,000-man army. You know, they send you that, and all the language is about being the hero of Azeroth, and that's fine, but kind of doesn't make that much sense. And I think hardcore and classic do a much better job of making you feel like you're just a humble adventurer. You cannot do things by yourself. You can do some stuff, you can get to a certain point, you can take on certain things, but lots of the big things, you just aren't equipped. You're just one of the other thousands of people in the world adventuring through. So you go pick up that pig, you go get that food, you go do these quests, you do these little bits and pieces, and it really feels like an adventure. It feels like you're building your character. It feels like you're exploring every inch of the world. You're picking up quests from all sorts of different people. You're doing such a variety of different tasks with a variety of different barriers in them that it really feels like an adventure game. And I suppose it feels like the RPG side of MMORPG. Massive multiplayer worlds with real role-playing potential, and I really think that Classic and Hardcore in particular hits the spot on that perfectly. And again, on that adventure you meet different people, you go through the highs and lows of the wins, the losses. For example, just the other day we went into that crypt. I think we all made a mistake, but maybe it was just my mistake primarily, and we lost one of the people we'd been adventuring with up until that level. And it feels miserable, but it feels like an adventure. When will we bump back into that person who's having to re-level to meet us again? Will we be too high level? Probably not, because the leveling is actually kind of good for pacing you up so people can catch you up pretty quick. And it's an adventure. The highs and the lows, the wins and the losses. With retail, it's just like a blast. It's like bam, 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 smack your head against the wall over and over and over and over and over again. And you'll either complete it or you're just not good enough, and that's the way it goes. And so I love the adventure, and I think this leads me kind of into my last point, but kind of one of two, and that is Heartbreak. And the heartbreak of hardcore World of Warcraft in particular is what some people would say a waste of time, and I think I read most of the comments will say, I just can't get my head around sinking hours, days of my time into something I can just lose. And whilst I completely understand that, because Classic World of Warcraft and Hardcore World of Warcraft takes so much more time to level and get to content than retail does. And so I understand for people who don't necessarily have that much time, why they might go, retail makes more sense because I just want to play. I just want to play a game. I just want to get into it. And so I understand that mindset. But actually the Heartbreak, the losing the characters adds so much more. And I think one thing it does, it just makes you care about the game more, makes you care about the game more and your character more, which is always nice. You want to do right by your character, and I haven't felt that about a game that I've played in maybe 10 years. And granted, I'm getting to be a bit of an older gamer, but I know lots of World of Warcraft gamers are older than me, and so I can understand how Hardcore and Classic makes you feel that connection to your character again. It makes you care about the game you're playing more. I don't feel the same way about my retail characters as I do about my hardcore characters. I want my hardcore character to survive. I also think the other thing it does is it just gives a bit of, it is competitive, and I know that retail lots of time is like the competitive thing, and it is M+ dungeons, raids. That is the apex, the point, the tip of the spear of high-end stuff, as well as PvP, of course. PvP, guys, I know PvP's hard. Arguably harder than PvE, okay? Let's leave that in the comments. However, that is competitive. The Heartbreak of hardcore is competitive. To begin with, the likelihood is, and I am one of these because I've not reached level 60, let me preface that. In fact, I haven't even reached level 30 or 40 because I'm not very good. But what that means is every time I die, what I want to do is beat my personal best. Maybe it was level 6 the first time, maybe it was level 8, maybe it was 10, maybe it was 15, maybe it was 19. And I'm sure that there comes a point where the Heartbreak is just like, I can't be bothered. I'm sure that happens for lots of people. But for me right now, if my character goes down, I will want to go again. I will want to beat myself, and I want to do better than the last time. And I think really this ties everything up all together, is I love playing hardcore World of Warcraft. And to begin with, it was a bit of a slow burner. And to begin with, I couldn't understand why you'd want to do something slower than retail. Retail felt great. But as I've played it more and I've put more time into it, I'm just appreciating it. I'm appreciating the slow walks from A to B. I'm appreciating the preparation before going into combat. I'm appreciating the community and the people that I bump into, the conversations that we have. And it's awesome. It is awesome. I just haven't experienced the same things on retail that I have experienced on Classic and Hardcore for that matter. And for that reason, currently, I'll be playing more hardcore World of Warcraft. And I think the rest of the world generally, or the people who play World of Warcraft, would agree that the Classic game is in a really good position. I think the whole game is in a really good state. It feels generally kind of good. I know that M+ there's some concerns, but we've got Season 2 coming out for the War Within, which is really exciting, and I'm sure I'll dip over to retail and play that and see the new dungeons and see what's going on with the raid. But I'll also be chipping away and playing hardcore and playing classic, because I really do think that the community there is worth everyone trying. So whether you're a new player considering what version to play, or you're someone who feels a bit burnt out from playing retail, give hardcore a go and give yourself a couple of hours to get over the slowness, because to begin with it will feel slow and you'll be like, this is boring, nothing's happening, but eventually it will just become the game you play and you'll love it and you'll grow to love it. Well, so again, as always, thank you everyone for listening to me ramble on for 16-17 minutes, whatever it was. I really appreciate the feedback and the comments on here, so please do feel free to put down your feelings in the comments. I really enjoy reading them. As always, subscribe if you want to see more of this content, and like the video because it helps me out a bunch. All right, everyone, lots of love, take it easy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.